Welcome, everyone, to Delivering Recovery on how to harness family ties to drive recovery. I am very happy to have Ward Blanchard here with me today. Ward is the founder and original owner of the Blanchard Institute. And Ward, I think you started the Blanchard Institute about the same time I started Vista Research Group. Was it? You started in 2017?
Yes, it was 2016 is when we kind of started to create it, started taking clients in 2017.
All right, super. Can you describe a little bit about the Blanchard Institute and just overall what you offer to the patients? And then I want to dive into some of the discussion about the very unique family program you have.
Sure, no, absolutely. As you'll find out, I love talking about families. And the Blanchard Institute is a community-based IOV and PHP continuum, an outpatient continuum of primary substance use disorders, really dual diagnosis outpatient care. And it's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Right now we have two locations, one in Charlotte and one in Lake Norman, and actually just announced that we're opening another in Winston-Salem, and soon hope to, the goal is to build a continuum across the state. So we're excited about that. Yes. Is it
going to be another PHP IOP?
Yes, ma'am. Just like it's what I'm talking about, that we are really a community-based continuum. The IOP and PHP and, OP and beyond is really a continuum of care that delivers those services to individuals and families, within their community. Residentials are wonderful. And what we know is that the majority of individuals that struggle with dual diagnosis issues and substance use disorder, have a fully functioning job and need to exist in the stream of life. And so that's what we do, at the Institute, with a certain special added component of really providing some comprehensive family care and family support throughout that continuum. And so right now, we, like I said, been doing that since 2017 and are excited about continuing to do that beyond in North Carolina.
Well, the reason I wanted to bring you on Delivering Recovery was I think what you've done with the family program is so unique with multiple different parts to it. And, having gotten involved in the addiction treatment world as a result of my daughter, I know just how important the family programs are. So could you describe what the Blanchard Institute offers to families of patients who go there?
Sure. Yes, ma'am. And, discussing recovery and treating this disease from a family disease perspective is certainly not a novel concept. We've known, and it's been out there for a long time, at least since First Lady Ms. Ford made her announcement in the 1980s. So the fact that we treat and support the treatment process from a family disease perspective isn't novel or new, but how we do it is, quite different and quite new. And what I mean by that is, I never really understood when I was a young professional why residential centers were the only treatment resource that had family programs when residential centers have the shortest time period with clients and actually are destinations. Like you travel to the residential center. And so you have least access to families. And what we do and what we realized at the Institute is when you're a community-based organization and you're right there in the stream of life with your clients and families, you have the longest exposure to clients and families. And so, as a client enters treatment with you in PHP or IOP, and, that's normally a few weeks or, can be as long as a couple months long, those families live and work and exist in their stream of life right there, just a couple miles from you. And so as a clinician, that allows us just a longer runway to really provide support for families. And we do that through a combination of what I call the group support, education, immersion workshops. Like specifically, we have a once a week professionally facilitated support group just for families that happens every week. And we couple that with, we also have another longer 3-hour session that has a combination of groups and a lecture period. So you have education, and you'd have a professionally facilitated process group, and that's the regular, consistent support that runs routinely. But all of these resources really sort of birth from what really makes us special is the family workshop, immersion workshop that we provide to families, which is very similar to your 2.5-day traditional family program that people often experience at residential centers. We do that, on the outpatient level, and provide that, sort of family immersion workshop on a half-a-day Friday, all-day Saturday, and which is a combination of lectures, small groups, experiential exercises to give the family and the client just a wide variety of experiences, opportunities to not only invest and learn themselves, but most importantly, connect with other families and other clients. That gives them that sense that they're not alone.
So you have, I think it was Thursday nights, you have a family session just for families. So that kind of sounds like Al-Anon, but because there's a clinician there, you're able to do more, right?
Yes, it's very true, because we're very outspoken about how much we advocate for family and loved ones support groups and community support groups. And our Thursday night group doesn't replace those. We call it the resilience group. And the resilience group that we have every Thursday night has a professional present, and so there's a little bit of difference there. And and we make sure that we make clear that our Thursday night resource doesn't replace Al-Anon, but it is different, meaning that professional clinician is there for a reason. They're there to provide education. They're there to provide direction. They're there to provide guidance. They're also there, like where Al-Anon, where you often hear that they don't allow crosstalk and unguided, unhealthy conversation that can often happen in any group. That the professional is there to provide the safe space, redirection, and that element of support that's needed from a professional clinician. But make no mistake, the magic and the special sauce really happens between the connection between the family and loved ones.
Yeah, I know meeting other families who were going through the same thing was just so useful when I was going through it with my daughter, because you feel like you're the only one who's dealing with this, because of course people don't talk about their loved ones that have that are in treatment for addiction. And so I remember myself, what a difference. I still kept in touch with one of the moms that I met back in 2008 when our daughters were roommates at one of the residential center. And we just talked a couple weeks ago, actually. So.
Well, that sums it up, Joanna. Like the two most powerful words you can say to somebody when they're suffering and struggling is "me too," and that really intimate connection that happens with this unique suffering. That parent that you met in 2008, probably within the first few hours that you met her, that in some ways she understood you in certain ways that some people during your whole life didn't understand. And so that's you can't reproduce that out of a textbook. That's just an experience that you must have with one another.
So there's a Thursday night group just for families, and that's virtual, right? And you allow anyone to attend, right?
That is virtual, and it is open to the community, that anybody any family member, any loved one, anybody who is impacted by a relationship with an individual struggling with substance use disorders can absolutely attend that. You do not have to have a client formally admitted into Blanchard by any stretch. Yes, ma'am.
So then you also have, I think it's Saturday mornings, that you have every Saturday morning, every week, there's a family session, family and patients. Is that right?
Yes, this is a unique resource. This resource is for those clients that are formally admitted into the Institute. This is a 3-hour resource on Saturday that is broken up into a combination of activities. For the first hour and a half or so is an educational hour, an opportunity to discuss an ongoing topic, whether it's boundaries, relapse prevention, communication, codependency, those topics that we have professional clinicians that present on. And then we take a break and give everybody a chance to stretch their legs from the scene. And then when we come back, the last hour and a half is that intimate opportunity to have a professionally guided process group. And what makes this real special is it's multifamily, and clients and family members and loved ones attend. And so what that allows is family members and loved ones and clients to be in a group and hear from other clients, other families, in a way that they may not always be able to hear from their own family member, or their own child, or their own spouse who's struggling. Sometimes that emotional history may provide some added element of not hearing somebody so much. But that's one of the most powerful feedbacks we have, is those families and clients who get to hear from other clients and other family members that aren't connected to them. They can hear their story and experience far more clear.
Fascinating. So, one of the things that I thought I remembered you telling me a while back was that these family programs are required. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we, when we talk about, family treatment, one thing we discuss very openly at the Institute, that we, when we say, because that we provide family treatment. It is, we are known for it. Our tagline is, world-class, family-focused. Families in our DNA. It is on our website. It is on every admissions form that you sign. And so we're very, upfront about it. And so for the most part, that as we talk about that, families go through a parallel process and go through often the same amount of struggling and trauma that clients do, and they need, and most importantly, they deserve to have appropriate levels of support and treatment that aren't always accessible.
So you have every Thursday night you have a family meeting. Every Saturday morning you have a family and patient meeting, and then you offer the family workshop 5 times a year also.
That's right. So every week, the structure is, they get about combined over 4 hours consistently, every week, whether they do the process group and through the Saturday opportunity, regularly, families and loved ones have about 4 hours consistently. And then once every 10 weeks, so once every IOP session that usually lasts about 10 weeks. Once every couple months, we provide this family system workshop, and that is a day and a half resource that also has virtual and hybrid opportunities that we certainly invite and encourage all clients and families to attend in person. However, we have opened it up and the ability to provide it completely virtual for those family members that may live in a different state or not able to attend in person. We have hybrid opportunities. And so, this resource goes Friday night for 3 hours from 5:30 to 8:30, and then all day on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it's a combination of about 12 plus hours of resources. And lastly, we also encourage and invite community professionals that attend that, because we give away about 10 to 12 free continuing education credits for any licensure professional that attends. This most recent weekend, we had about 60 out of the over 200 attendees, were community professionals. And so, and it's all free. And that's another important is this family workshop, along with the resilience group, is free and open to the community to attend.
It's amazing. And insurance isn't paying you for any of this. Is that right?
That is correct. That the resilience group and the family workshop is free and open to the community. These are the resources, like I mentioned, that you don't have to have a client formally in Blanchard to attend, and we invite and welcome. Drenix, as you may remember, it's tough walking in those Al-Anon doors for the first time, or the treatment doors for the first time, or it's tough, as they say, picking up that 1,000-pound phone. That's tough enough in itself. Having a financial barrier just adds another layer that you have to navigate through. So we really want to try to remove those barriers and make this uncomfortable process as comfortable as possible.
So you're offering all these extra things that insurance isn't covering for your patients or their families. How do you see the patients change as a result, and how do you see the families change? Because I'm asking a bigger question, like, why is this so important? Tell us how it's working.
Absolutely. And, even on a microcosm, you can see and experience families and clients change just within the weekend. In fact, that's actually something that we, communicate on Friday night at 5:30 when we're welcoming everybody and starting off. I'll actually say, once I've thanked everybody for being super excited to attend a family workshop on their Friday night and weekend, we know everybody's just, very excited to be there. That we understand that when people come in, they're often, uncomfortable and don't know some of most of the faces, and so it's kind of an awkward, or at least disconnected, experience when you walk into a bunch of, people and individuals that you may not know. And so I'll just say, put a pin in this moment about how you feel right now, because tomorrow it happens about 11:30, almost by the end of the morning, there'll be a dynamic difference in the energy, the connection in the room. We'll actually struggle to herd the cats on break time when we give them a 5-minute break, because they're talking and connecting with one another. We'll actually struggle to get everybody back in the room, start on time, because they're actually connecting too much. And we've got stuff to do. And so you can feel that intangible but invaluable connection that happens when two people that, like you said, when they're out there in the stream of life, suffering in silence, when they finally get to experience, another individual, another human that can sit there with them and empathize with something that they have this unbearable pain that unites them, but now they finally feel like they're not alone. So when you get to experience that firsthand, it truly is like magic, and it's like contagious. It is very much a blessing. It's empowering, and it very much is contagious. It's that connection that you can see and experience.
One of the things that you mentioned to me that I also found really interesting was that you require the families to come to the intake assessment. Can you describe how you handle the intake? Because I thought that was very interesting, and some of other centers might want to hear about it.
Sure. Yes. Well, it's, the assessment period. And, that's one of the things that we subscribe to. And I know those out there listening, whether professionals or families or, when individuals are in the midst of their disease and or in their active substance use disorders, they may be in a mental space that isn't quite the clearest or isn't quite, themselves when the active disease is going on. And so that's what sort of the disease does. It kind of steals our self-awareness when we're in the middle of it. And so if you think about it, and, our goal in these assessment appointments is undoubtedly to get information just like you would in an initial evaluation. There's no question that's, important to get through that, red tape. It's required. And I think everybody understands how important it is to get that basic information. But when it comes to really trying to understand the disease and understand how the disease has impacted not only the individual, but has impacted the family disease, we want to try to get as much information and collateral information and perspective as possible. Just allows us to see not only the disease better, but see and experience the client better or the family better. And I think we can all agree that information, coming from only one source, coming from only the client, like we said, who may be in the middle of active disease, may not be the best judge of what's going on at that current time, just themselves. And so having the family there where they also get to provide their experience, what they've witnessed, not only that, but get to experience the beginning part of that connection process, where they've been out in the stream of life, maybe looking through resources, and this treatment experience is very new to them. They don't know what to expect. They know this disease is killing their loved one, and their loved one may have an appointment, but what's going on in there? This disease that's not only hurting my child or my family member or my spouse, but is also hurting me. It provides them an outlet to begin to heal and begin to receive. And equally as important is to begin to receive information, education, and support that is just the first step in the treatment process. But overall, the more that we can connect and the more that we can involve in a very healthy way, then the better off, the client is. And we call that the sphere of influence, Joanna. Those family members, those loved ones, and even those key stakeholders within the client's inner circle, they're all, invited to come, but certainly the families and loved ones that are closest to the individual, we certainly, really try to encourage it, expect, support them to come if possible.
So your regular clinician, one of your clinicians takes the patient off and does the assessment, and then you separately interview the family. So you're doing basically like two separate assessments at the beginning?
It's two separate assessments, or as we put it, the family system is our client. The family system is our client. And so, we have the professional who sits there and has the primary person of concern, the individual struggling, providing their, sort of experience and their answers to the formal biopsychosocial. And then secondary is, family members and loved ones who have also attended, are there to provide, their perspective of, what's going on, what they experience, and to receive information that may be new to them when it comes to understanding the disease concept. It really is an advocacy for the client, if you want to know the truth, that we provide, that education on that, disease model, that hopefully will begin the empathy process between families that, stops the finger pointing and the shaming that may happen to the suffering individual, where the family member points at them and says, if you go get help, if you go fix your issues, then all of our problems go away. That can be very, very shaming and unfair and just toxic to the overall family's health and well-being. And so this process, when we invite the families in and encourage them to come, really is an act of client advocacy, for them to for us to invite the family in and say, hey, you're a part of this too, in a very we theme or we feeling, instead of a finger pointing you experience. When this becomes a collective we process, we find not only is that the most effective evidence-based way to treat the family, most importantly, it begins the healing and connection process in the family with a good first step.
You also mentioned to me before that it can be really useful because you offer both PHP and IOP. If a patient comes in and says, oh, I think I'll be fine with IOP, that you can get the family support for more intensive treatment up front.
It sometimes it may be intensive treatment, sometimes it may not. It just is a treatment that is guided by the professional. If you think about when you have any disease or any medical illness, when you walk into the doctor's office, by all means, it's a collaborative relationship. But I don't know what your doctor is, Joanna, but I don't get to go into mine and demand what type of treatment or prescriptions that he or she is to give me. Now, I certainly, have choices, and we play a collaborative role, but I don't get to dictate treatment as the client. And so in a similar fashion, one of the reasons that I think you can attribute our, success to is that, we treat this just like, any other disease, that the licensed professional, the licensed trusted professional guides the treatment process. Nobody dictates it. The client doesn't dictate it, and the professional certainly doesn't dictate it. I tell people I'm not one of those professionals that believes in that steel on steel, shut up, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth, or whatever it is, that tough love. I don't I believe in the appropriate expression of love. But this treatment is a collaborative, very motivational interviewing type of treatment, just guided by the professional. And that's what we begin to communicate at the at the assessment too, because if there's family members out there, can imagine that if you're not participating in treatment, that your loved one goes off to disappointment and comes home and tries to communicate what they saw, what they experienced, what they said. How many families have been through that? And how do you know? How do you know? Is that really what the professional said, or it just doesn't really enlist a lot of opportunities for trust and support. But however, if you have families that show up there in a healthy way, it provides that element of support and transparency, and begins the road of reestablishing that trust, which, thanks to Vista, that is one of the foremost items and goals that clients have when they enter treatment. I think it's something like 75 to 85% of clients check into treatment to repair relationships with their family or gain trust back with their family. So this is just the beginning step of that.
Can you think? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you think of any recent examples of of something that happened that made you so confident that the family involvement had made a real difference in the patient's recovery?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, some months ago that there was a young adult female who came in, herself, and she was in her early 20s, and she scheduled the appointment and came in herself, and we couldn't exactly get a hold of the family, so there was a disconnect with them being there right then. But it certainly was a family that wanted to participate. They just couldn't be there right at that moment. The client went through the biopsychosocial and went through the assessment and heard the recommendation. And she herself said, I'm not in a place where I should be the one to make these type of decisions, which is acknowledging that she was unhealthy. But she said, "What I hear the recommendation is please me, but I'll just come back in 3 to 4 weeks when I'm in a better frame of mind." And it's never these day and age that's a serious thing. So we made sure that we got appropriate releases and asked if we could communicate with the family, of which she obliged. And so we were able to contact the family and spent about 30 minutes with them on the phone, kind of educating them with this process and family involvement and actually what the client, with her permission, allowed us to share. And so once that family got educated and involved and committed to the process, within 2 days the client had checked into not only the appropriate recommended treatment, but also had checked into the gender specific female recovery residence and was excited about it. And actually, I think saw me in the hallway a few days later and said, "I'm so grateful to be in Betty's house." And this was the same girl that 4 days before was in our office, which families should be excited that your child who's struggling made the appointment herself, came in herself, willingly gave the assessment. But when it came time to that recommendation and follow through, she wasn't there. She could even recognize that she wasn't in the mental space to make the decision. And so that's why we're like, hey, and that's why you should follow the recommendation of professionals and check into treatment. She wasn't willing to do it. She wasn't willing to follow through. And so she left. And it was that added family component, that added element that we provide at that assessment, that with the combination of supporting each other, that not only did the client check in, she checked into that sober living, and like I said, was grateful about it the next time I ran into her.
Fantastic. Wonderful. One last question, and then we're going to have to wrap up. You've been using Vista's outcomes research since, I think, about 2019. Have you found Vista's research useful either during treatment or afterwards in attracting patients or getting reimbursements or anything like that?
Absolutely. Joanna, I think we found that Vista is an invaluable resource for multifaceted reasons. All that you described, real time, Vista with their interactive client, self-report that happens with consistency. I can tell you that, that information, there are times where we've, gotten alerts, real-time alerts that when a client is filling out their information and they put that their mood or their just mental space isn't in the healthiest place, we'll get a real-time alert that allows us immediate action. That's something that happens, when it comes to also just the collective data that we can accumulate. Absolutely, we're able to see and experience, objective evidence-based information that shows significant progress, in a client, that when they, check into treatment and their depressive symptoms or their trauma symptoms or their anxiety symptoms, once they're go through Vista's standardized tools, we're at a significant level of heightened and then by the time they're in their last episode of treatment, have this, significant decline. And that just that visual can really empower a client. Sometimes when you're in the middle of going through this treatment or early recovery process, you can feel like, man, I just haven't felt like I've made much progress. I haven't felt like, and we forget what it was and how we were when we came in. It's kind of like why we often in some treatment centers take a picture of a client at some residential centers for their ID badge. We'll take a picture of a client in day one, and then by the time they graduate or complete treatment, day 30, you can take another picture and see that they basically, had a metamorphosis into another human being. And we don't always see or experience that ourselves because we're fighting that internal battle. We're our own worst enemies, that if I didn't do it perfect enough, then I didn't do it. But this allows us to show evidence and visuals of significant progress, which validates the hard work. And then, as we all know, this disease is a progressive disease, the continuation that allows us to follow and get information back on who and how these individuals were able to stay 3 months sober, 6 months, sober, a year into the recovery process, getting this information back, not only to advocate and support our clients, but how do we grow and learn as professionals? Is how do we continue to really press ourselves to be the best professional that we need to be for our clients? I tell all the professionals that work in this disease to really treat this disease with the reverence of how deadly it can be. And so that means that we're constantly trying to measure and understand, are the evidence-based tools and resources, are they being effective? Are there tweaks and things that we need to work on? And it provides an excellent tool for that. And lastly, and a very real advocacy for clients and their families, it does allow us to advocate and fight the insurance companies, which is on behalf of the clients, that I consider that just essential client advocacies, because the more that we're able to do that and get authorizations from the insurance company, the less financial burden this is. Because our clinical treatment isn't dictated by insurance companies. We provide the clinical treatment and the clinical recommendation, and the arguing and battling the insurance companies is on behalf of the client. And so it really provides us that evidence-based information and data to say, hey, what we're doing is working here, and we're going to add this element of therapy or this element of EMDR or of additional treatment. It's the recommendation either way. Don't make the family pay for it. This is something that the insurance really needs to pay for it, and this has been very effective in helping with that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Ward, we're going to have to wrap up now. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience. I've just been fascinated by everything you've been doing at the Blanchard Institute, and congratulations again on making such a wonderfully effective center. Your outcomes have been excellent, and I just want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you guys for all that you guys do, because you guys have come a long way since 2015.
Yes, we have. Thank you for your interest. We want to give you a super fast overview of what Vista software provides. Vista software allows you to easily see how your patients are progressing during treatment, and also to create progress notes that you can easily modify and copy and paste into your EHR. It also allows you to look at 65 different patient-reported metrics, such as the improvement in depression symptoms, and to filter those by program, payer, clinician, and a lot of other options. Once your patients leave treatment, we follow up with them at 1, 6, and 12 months post-discharge, and we'll make 10 to 15 attempts to contact them each time. We pay your patients a little bit to take the surveys, and we'll also reach out to a mom or a spouse to get updated contact information if the patient doesn't immediately respond. As a result, we're typically able to reach 45 to 60% of your patients, and we're able to identify then the effectiveness of all different treatment centers that we work with. And we can show you exactly how your center compares to the norms. We collect a lot of other information, such as a number of ER visits and hospital stays and detox treatments, and we can compare the number in the pre-treatment year to the post-treatment year to actually calculate how much your treatment saved payers. If you're interested in learning more, we would love to talk to you about how Vista can help your center. Please schedule a discovery call at vista-demo.com.